Makes it a little bit easier, a little bit better. So that's good. So yeah, so this is the organizational view. What you can basically see in it, every single thing is owned in the system. So in this demo, you can see here 21 of these risk assessments are up to date. One of them, so the reminder will have been sent to that one person 30 days before, and the one that's red, they will have been reminded at least a month ago, but as a management team, you'd be able to see that this one hasn't been updated. Exactly the same for procedures. When it comes to tasks and what's happening, what's really good about this is eight things have been done today, 20 are available, 4 have been started, and 6 are overdue. So you get this really quick overview within the organization. Now, where you have multiple sites, then of course you'd be able to see which ones need help now, right? The key behind this being a live dashboard is that it's live now. It updates about every 40 seconds. So you know exactly what's going on. You also have an ability in here to put in your documentation. You used to be able to put documentation in, but now it gives you the reminders in here to let you know whether your insurance is due or your PAT testing is due or your service contract's up for renewal or whatever it may be, whatever documents you feel need to go in there. But the key behind this is we're trying to get rid of all those folders behind us. And I remember when I was the national management trainer in LA Fitness, I'd go into a site and I'd say, right, I need this information. And they'd be like, well, June's not in till Thursday. And June deals with that. So this is to stop that type of thing from happening. It's try and make everything that you need to run your centres is available as and when you need it and for the people who need it too. So a little bit of an overview of that. Then we go into site. Now in here, as a brief overview, these are all live task tiles. So duty managers have got 14, 6 of them are overdue. Facilities managers got 2, 1's overdue, etc., etc. I'll come on to those in a minute. We can pin certain bits of information. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to have your winter safety briefing. You might want that in the forefront, or in the summer, you might want a summer briefing. You might have a monthly review of how your business is going. That might be in here. So all those staff have access to find things in procedures. Certain things you might want to put on the forefront, like the evacuation. If there's ever an evacuation, because I've got my phone on me, I know I have the procedure as soon as I step outside, right? So it just speeds up little things like that for you. Now, with risk assessments, I'm just going to whistle stop it, right? You put your risk assessments in. So they look like them, they smell like them, they are them. We allocate these out to the users that need them, so we know which departments need them. The other good thing about in here, so obviously you put all your risk action plan, that all comes into one place. And this is really what it was built for. So Greg's had to go to court, and so have I when I was in LA Fitness. One day I was in my office and someone rang me up and said, Craig, have a look at Sky News. I turned Sky News on and there was a Sky helicopter above one of our sites. One of the gentlemen who'd been there for 7 years decided to mix chlorine with acid, and he knocked out a couple of customers and a member of staff, which didn't bode too well. Now, this lad pretended that he'd never been trained, blah, blah, blah. And when you go to court or if anything that needs to happen, this is the bit that's important, right? Having a risk assessment that's up to date is great, but if no one's read it, and the right people haven't read it, that's when the danger signs start. So this is really, really important. One thing we also wanted to solve was the version control thing. So what you basically have in here is, let me just put a longer date in there. So what you basically have in here is the ability to have all the logs, changes, tweaks, anything at all that you add in. If you take something away, it goes in red. Anything you add in goes in green. So this just means that one of our customers, as an example, they had a fire. So what they basically did, they came into here, it was a fire, it was electrical safety, and it was in their plant room. They clicked on that, they clicked update, and this is then everything they needed to send to the insurers or to the head office or whatever it may be. Every single page that you see can be converted into different languages if that's what you need to do, and it can also be printed to PDF. So we are a paperless system, but you can kill the odd tree if you want to. Not that you would. So with risk, that's pretty much it. When we go into procedures, so procedures is anything you want anyone to know. Now, I'll show you some of the new things that we brought into this, but when Greg was building this and when we sort of got onto like version 2, version 3, I said to Greg, one of the most important things is that we try and create not replicate share drive, right? Because I've got a nickname for share drive. I call it repetitive strain injury folders, because you end up going down this one hole trying to find stuff, and then you search for something and 40 different documents come up with the same sort of name or the same pattern. So I said to Greg, we have to be able to find stuff in here. So it becomes ultimately searchable. So if I wanted to find, as an example, manual handling, I would type that in, manual handling would pop up. In here is the video I want them to watch, the training that I want them to go through, and then they're away, right? So the key behind this is it's about trying to make sure everything's accessible. Now, in the new version, what we've done is we've brought in the ability to embed things. So this becomes really important. So we only have to update things in one place. Okay, so let's say I'll show you in a minute. If we update something on the website, we can just directly send staff to the website and send them a link to read it when we know it's been updated. So in here, here's a couple. I don't know whether you ever use Scribe for any of your training modules and things like that. It's for anything you've got online. It's amazing. And it gives you these full guides of how to do things. So you can do that type of stuff. Or we use things like gammas, these, so this documentation, we only have to update it in one place, and all we can then do is come in here and click and ask people to reread these things. So the ability to utilize other areas of the business, or to be able to keep things so they only need to be done one, is really important. Little things like, if I go on to what we've also brought in, which is really, really important, so is the ability to be able to link to other documentation. Okay, so if there's been an accident or an incident, I know that I need to go to this document, this document, this document, this document. Okay, so it gives me that flow of everything I need to update when this kicks in. And this is now really, really easy to do. If I go into the edit, and I want to go into sort of hyperlink in here, I have the ability to link list, and I can click organizational docs or risk assessments. And when I'm in the tasks, I can do all different things. So the key behind this is making it really easy for it. Might be I want to develop a certain member of staff, and I might say, look, here's further reading or things you may want to look into. Or it might be for health and safety reasons, where you're saying, right, if you read this is really important too. But it helps really improve that flow of how we bring things in and stuff like that. We brought in bullet points and emojis and things like that, trying to, we know that we've got a much younger market now, and so you can put like these various different things on there. We've got quite a lot of legal organizations and HR companies who like to have certain indentations and things like that, so we just added a few more things in, so you can have whatever sort of variation that you wish, and the ability, like I say, to add in emojis and bits and pieces for people. Staff can add emojis into the answers very quickly on mobile phones and tablets, but now you can build it into your documentation to say, look, here's an alert point, concentrate on this bit, etc., etc. So other key bits in here are, let's say, did I build a DSC into here? I'm sure I did. Let's have a look. So here's an example of DSC. Is one of those things that all your members of staff have got to do every single year. Anyone that looks at any tablet, any phone, any screen at any stage, they've got to do this once a year. So here's our training. We get them to go through it, and then when they get to the bottom, what we've done is we've embedded the Microsoft form in. Okay, so the fact that this now feels like it's within the product, what this basically means is our product, Laura, it doesn't contain any GDPR, right? Which is really important, especially to try and get past the IT teams. So all we have is an email address, and we have a name and what they've signed off. But there'll be certain things. It might be like a return to work form you might want to embed. It might be holiday forms. It might be accident forms, anything like that you might want to embed. This information will be filled in the product, but the answers will be stored on a shared drive in a safe folder where you can put them. And obviously the manager will get an email when this has been completed and that type of stuff. But what's great about these type of things from a manager's perspective is next year I will get a reminder. So a month before this date kicks in, I will get the reminder. I will then go into the system. At the bottom, I have this option here to say, look, can you please all do it again? I click that once, and then every single person that has done it in the past will then be asked to do it again, because this is an annual thing that we need to keep on doing. So the embedding comes in really handy, but the fact that you can embed it into the task and make it easy for the management team to request these things to happen is really, really, it's a godsend. Now, of course, in here, we have the understanding of how well trained your organization is, massively important. The logs in here, again, we've got these different logs in. So within the logs in here, it's the same sort of format as the risk assessment, where you've got the red and green option where it takes things away and adds things in. In terms of version control, you can only look, they can only look at the version you want them to look at. So I know when I used to be the national management trainer in LA Fitness, it was a nightmare. We'd send stuff through to the sites. We'd say, right, make sure you've seen the updated version, but we had no proof whether they'd read it, whether they'd seen it, whether they were looking at the right one. So in here, what basically happens is when you change or tweak things, you get this little click in here, and anything that gets changed or tweaked will go red or green within there. So the key behind it means that it's just all in one place, right? And it's very, very easy to get to. Okay, so these are all live tiles. We can get to any of these if we want to. So we can get to the individual teams. We can go to here. I can go to all tasks here or all tasks here. So when I click onto all tasks, anything that's overdue obviously goes red. Now, the key behind this is that we have certain jobs we've got to do at certain times a day. So they go green when they're needed. When someone starts one, they go amber. And once they've been completed, they grey off until they're due to be done again. Okay, so this just means that this is when a member of staff comes in to start work, the reception team, they'll do their open check sheet on here. So they may come in here. Now, again, that scenario I gave you before when the Sky News helicopter came, what was really important about that was the gentleman that knocked the people out pretended he'd never been trained in his whole life. So we had to go through all this different paperwork. It was an absolute nightmare trying to find 7 years worth of training this particular gentleman had had. So what we built into this is the ability so normally when you get a check sheet, you only normally get this bottom bit. Okay, but what we've got here is when they sign off to say fire doors checks are completed, the very first time they come in, they have to sign off to say they understand what's expected and the types of things that they should be logging within the system. So the very first time they come in, we get them to click this button. If we update it or change it, we can ask people to read that again in case there's been an accident and we've tweaked it or whatever it may be. But the key behind it is it's a really, really powerful bit of kit to make sure that everyone, if you ever have to go to jail, to court, it means that you're not going to jail. Now, if you're in a management position, everyone's in LA Fitness. It was if that gentleman hadn't been trained, it was me that was going. Right. So this is why it's really, really important. You can do all the best training in the world, but that person may decide on that day to cut a corner. Well, at least you've done your bit as an organization, which is massively, massively important. So you can also see when someone starts to do it. Absolutely brilliant. Now I'm just going to go into the groups and I'm going to click on V5. So I'll show you some of the new bits that we've sort of built in. So with the embedding, LA Fitness as an example, we used to have to count how many people were on poolside. Okay, so in here, if I click on here, this is live. So you can see the pool's moving. At the minute, there's no one in that pool. Brilliant. So I've come into here, bathe account 0. And I'd complete my task. But it means it's trying to bring all these things into one place. It might be that you've got outdoor sports, and it might be, can we get the grass cut today? Can we make sure the bookings are going ahead? So it might be that you check weather forecasts or you see how things are going. So in here, you would basically just come in, it's embedded, the weather is all in there, it's live, we can see what's happening. We can then say update the reception board, update the website if we need to, update social media if we need to, and then we can sign that off. You can see this won't let me sign it off because I haven't agreed I understand it, blah blah blah. I understand it, now it'll let me sign it off. But by embedding these things in, it makes it really, really easy to make sure that things are happening without staff having to jump elsewhere and take loads and loads of time up. Other things, so especially for the universities, one that you'll probably appreciate, Laura, is if we do the books scores have to be updated. Okay, so the receptionist or whoever it is that has this job would come in, the live fixtures are already embedded into the system. You would then make sure that we've passed the information on to the people who need it. We sign it off and it's done. So by bringing these things together, it just means that we can bring it just makes it so much easier for the staff to make sure these things are done. Now they can do this on a tablet, on a phone, anywhere you like, but we can embed any sort of pages into this. One of the examples, so other things that we've got in here, obviously I said before, the emojis, the embedding, that type of stuff, the Microsoft form. So it might be I've got to log my lifeguard training. So in here, we'd have the form. What's the date? So it's the 6th today. What's your name? Craig. Who's the tutor? Greg. How long did you spend? 2 hours. And because it's February, we covered this. In the pool, we covered this. We covered this. We covered this for the first aid. Nothing. There was nothing new. So that's good. And this person came from team. These all came from team 1. These 2 people came from team 2. Now, obviously, this would be the staff names in there. You'd then submit it. Your manager would get that copy in there, and that's now been logged for the month. Okay, so little things like this. I've just had an email now to say that I've logged that particular task. So, and that gets filed away in a safe space, so it's all available to the managers or the people who need it. So, the key behind this is knowing, who's doing what, where, and when. Now, the idea behind the fact that I can see, let's see what the cleaners are due to do. Let's see what the facility manager's doing today. Let's see what the leisure assistants have got planned. So very, very quickly and simply, I can see exactly what's going on across the whole organisation within seconds. Now, if we go into, so you have the ability in here to add problems. Okay, so if I go to, let me go to the open check. Here's an example here. So I go to do the open check. I've signed that off in the past, so I'm fine. I can start to do my check. I'm checking this, I'm checking this, I'm checking this. I've just got to the toilets, I've checked them, but I've just found that the toilet's broke. Okay, so I can come down here and have a look and see whether the toilet's been, so the toilet seat's broken. So I can go in here and have a look. So I can see that someone's logged it. There's a picture there for the maintenance man. So the maintenance man knows exactly the toilet or the light fitting or whatever it is that's been broken. He can go in there and do that. I then have the ability, if I'm the maintenance man, to update it and say, here's the new toilet in there. That's now done. So we can, the key behind it is we're not double logging problems, and we've got them all in the one place, which is massively, massively important when you're doing any of this stuff. So the key behind this is again, if I go into problems, I have all the problems for all the tasks in one place. Now, if I want to look at the open problems, of course I can. So I'll go to the open checks. Okay, click on those, and it would then sort of bring those together. This is a test demo, so it's not actually. What also happens here is in the real website, not the demo website, when these dates are missed. So if someone says I'm going to do a job by a certain time, it will send them back, and they'll get an email saying your time has passed. Can you please give us an update? So anything with the red line on is really the bits for you to manage, because they're the bits they've missed and they haven't done the timescales and they haven't kept things up to date. But the key behind this is we end up with the whole history of the whole task. When it was found, so when it was logged, we've got all the information that we need in there, which is really, really key to make sure we can do it. When it comes down to reporting, so we've got quite a lot of things in here. So we've got missed tasks. Now, the task costings is absolutely huge. So this won't work in here, Greg, will it? But it's because it's in the demo mode. But what I will show you is this is the report that would run. Now, we've all got to make cuts, right? I don't think I've ever been in an organization that wants to say, right, let's get loads more staff in because that'd be nice, right? So we're having to cut in all different places. Now, if you could imagine, let's say you're cleaning a particular room, or you're doing certain checks, or you're doing certain things, you can come into here, pick your date range. You can then click the group of tasks, or you can go in there and select your individual tasks, and then you can generate the report. What this will do is it will tell you how many tasks were completed, how many were missed, the hours it took, the hours that were potentially time lost, the amount it cost you in order to do that. Now, what this then does, it breaks down all the tasks that you've picked in that area. Okay, and it tells you which teams are doing those jobs. Now, if you can imagine this, let's say I've got a manager and he keeps doing all the staff's work for them. Right, so he wants to get everything ticked off, but he ends up doing all the work. What this will do is it will increase your average cost for that job. All right, because it's a leisure assistant's job. They should be doing it, but for some reason they're not, so that the duty manager's doing it. Well, the duty manager gets paid more, and that will reflect in here. So we can then ensure that we're getting the correct people to do the correct jobs, if that makes sense. Yeah, so in here you get an average for all these different areas. Really, really powerful if you want to make some proper cost cuts in and make sure. But what this also does, it allows you to understand that you can only cut so far. So when we get someone from finance saying to us, right, we need to get rid of this, it's like, look, this is the impact it's going to have. And what's also key is if, let's say, for instance, we didn't have any cleaners off, and this was a cleaning check that I'd run, well, okay, so they didn't do these jobs, but we paid for it. So what were they doing instead? It becomes really, really powerful to find out what's going on. We also have user activity graphs. So I can go in and say, right, let's have a look at these people. And I want to have a look at these in the last 45 days. And this will then generate and tell me, you know, what they're doing and whether they're finding problems, not finding problems. This is just amazing when you're running meetings. At this moment in time, every organisation I've ever been to has always had a lazy member of staff, and they've always had some really good ones. And we sort of think we know who they are, right? This will absolutely prove, so we know exactly who's doing what and when, and who's walking around with their eyes open and making things happen. So some of the reports and bits and pieces that we've got in there, really, really handy. And of course, the user activity log, this allows us to get down to any level. So I've signed off a few things in here this morning. You see, like test for demos and test for demo, and I've filled out this marketing thing. So now one of our customers, as an example, is East End Leisure. Last year they did over 400,000 checks. Well, we can get to any one of them in about 30 seconds. So we can click any date range that we want. The first click that we click is our first. The second click is the second. So that's from December to now. I can have a look at what's been completed. I can just look at all the problems, or I can look at all of them. I can break this down by group and click multiple groups, multiple tasks, multiple teams, individual teams, or users. So we can literally get to any bit of information within about 30 seconds. Probably quicker than that, if I'm being honest. But it just means if you've got an idea that, you know, if I wanted to find out what's happening in the pool, as an example now, you'd basically come into here, you'd type pool in, you'd pick the ones that have got pool in, or the pool ones we want to look at. As soon as we've done that, we then click update, and all the ones with all the problems, all the bits and pieces for that area would be there. Now, anyone who knows this is in a wet plant room somewhere. This is really, really hard information to utilize and use in your organization. So when I'm running a reception team meeting, a duty managers meeting, I've got every single thing that they've done, every single thing that they've missed. Really good example of how I've used this in an organization was one of the checks that they had to do was to do open checks and to wander around the building to make sure it was okay. Now, they'd done this for 40 days on the run, and they'd never found a problem. I went in, I found about 36 problems on that day, and I was like, right, so these have either all come this morning, so those spider webs must have came this morning, these tea marks on the wall where people have been throwing the tea bags must have come this morning, and it quickly came that they're just not looking. Well, so we can use this now to retrain. Now they're all starting to log things and make sure things happen. So really, really, the amount of information that's in here is just unreal in terms of information that you wouldn't or couldn't have had, and getting down to that makes it really, really powerful. Last but not least, in here is we've got the training area. So this is where you can add like first aid, all the different. I got fed up of having every site I went to had some sort of Excel spreadsheet that was out of date. They spent more time updating it than they did actually booking people on courses. So what we've done in here is if I show you the edit really quick, you'll see how this works. But you put your information in, what's the name of the course, what do they learn on it, what group, you create these, is it leadership, is it safety, whatever courses you want to name. Does it expire, does it have certificates, and which teams need it across your organization? As soon as you do that, it then generates this for you. And let's say, for instance, Dawnan's just done hers. I would come in here, I would click on Dawnan, I would select their review date, I would select her folder that I want to add in. Let me just put that one in for now as an example. And what you'll see then is it then takes you to the document. Ignore that, that will be a certificate. And then when we go back into the organization, you'll see that this percentage has now changed. And this is what this has also done in Dawnan's own personal area, is it's updated the course in here for it as well. So every individual, we can see exactly what they still need to read or to be trained in. We know exactly what tasks they've got and what they need to do, how many tasks they've done, and where their training is. In here, they get a 90-day review. Okay, so hopefully you can see a lot of the new. Greg, I'm just trying to think, is there anything else from the version 5 stuff that I've missed out? I think I've briefly covered it, haven't I?
Yeah, the new timers, but obviously there's a range of timers. You guys are new, so
Yeah, so when you're adding timers, of course, you can do multiple times a day, but now we've also built in the fact that you can have it the third Wednesday, the first Monday, the last Friday, that type of stuff has been built in. So that's come in your product. Like I said before, we've just updated our prices. This is the website. We know that's always up to date. And we can go in and edit it and ask the staff to reread it if we've updated. So there's loads of little things like that that have come in. But are there any questions from any of you? Are there any bits and pieces where you think, right, could it do this? Could it do this? Just to try and test me. I love this bit. This is my favourite part. Any questions at all? Ria, if you still can't speak, feel free to write in the chat.
Someone has to heckle you. Come on.
Got to be a heckler.
Got to be a heckler.
Craig, how is it now for kind of transitioning from, I mean, a document store? Because that was probably my concern originally. We've got, even just in HR, I think something like 60 odd policies that are in sort of Word format, etc. Did I read something about that? Slightly easier now to do that?
Yes, brilliant. I'm glad you said that because that's the one thing I missed.
I've forgotten that too.
Yeah. So basically, when you come into procedures now, so we now have a Word upload button. So you would go and click on your file. I'll put this one in for now. You click that in, import it, and it would spit it in. Now, obviously, this is, ignore what I put in there, right? Because that's just me. That's a load of people from a certain place, but it's a Word doc. But the key behind it is yes. And in fact, let me just pick one that is a policy, right? So let me just go and find one that is a policy, which is OpsPal, training resources, training examples, professional services, and environmental policy. So if I click on that, this now uploads it, brings it in, it brings pictures in, it brings bits and pieces in. So for me to do this now, test today, I'll review it a year from today. I then allocate it a group, which I'm going to call test. I allocate my owner, which is Dawn Ann. I then save that. I then go to users. I select the teams that need it, and that's now live. So hopefully you'll see that that's a hell of a lot quicker than what it used to be in terms of making this sort of live and happen. So yeah, the upload, what we found is you're not the only people with this. Now, it used to be copy and paste, right? But the copy and paste, I could probably get an EAP in about an hour by breaking it down into the sections, pasting it in. Now, in terms of the size of the documents, I think what can it handle, Greg, about 47,000 characters.
Yeah.
So it can handle relatively big documents, but the key behind it is that we can get them uploaded much quicker. If you, honest to God, if you gave me an EAP now, it'd probably take me about 5 minutes. And I'd have it out to all the teams and it'd all be updated and it'd all be live. And then we can copy it to another site and they just put their site specific bits in and stuff like that. So we totally understand that when you first come on, the worry that you have is this. It's like, oh my God, we've got so much to get on there. And we're like, well, you have, right? Let's not debate the fact that this product should be every single thing that every single person does in the organization. So if someone comes up to me, Lee, and they say, right, how do I change the printer roll? Well, if we haven't got a training document, I get my phone out, I record it, I upload it, and now no one ever asks me that question ever again. So at first, the first thing that we would do when you're on board is we would get you compliant, right? So we do this thing called risk flow. So you've got a fire risk assessment. In that, it says you've got a fire and an arson procedure, and it also says you do these 6 checks. Right, so we do this risk flow process with you to get all your risk assessments on and all the procedures attached to them and all the checks attached to them. And then after you've done that, we then start trying to help you improve your business. So it might be what do your meetings look like and what's the content of them and where are all the problems going and the follow-up actions and are they getting done, or what's your handovers like, what's your open checklist like. But we also do a load of work with you. So we've done a load of stuff in terms of mind mapping. Which is really important. So I'll just show you a document that we use once you're up and running. We basically, let me just show you this 1 second. So what we basically do is that once you put all your information on, we do what's called a gap analysis with you. So in here is a load of risk assessments, right, of things that you need to at least consider. So we'll make sure that you've got all them. Most of the time that's covered. Kosh, this is sometimes a bit of a wobbly area, if I'm being honest. So we'll do a little bit of information on Kosh. We'll then do the same with sort of policies, procedures, just make sure there's nothing missing. We also have a look at, your open, your close, your normal operating procedures, your sort of emergency action plans, that type of stuff. So we do all this. But one of the key bits that we do, and like this may sound a little bit weird, but we haven't found an organization yet that's actually got this right. And we're talking some of the best red brick universities in the UK trying to do this. So what we basically do is this is the really key bit. So I'm going to open this up. This seems weird, but you'll be doing all of these tasks now. You're just trying to do them on paper, right? So what happens is for fire, these checks need to be done. First aid, these need to be done. So we've basically done a bit of mapping as to what you need, just in case you're missing anything. But what we basically do with you, Lee, when you first come on, is we go, right, if you put these into your open check sheets, you're going to be covered. Right? If you put these into your closed check sheets, you're going to be covered. If you do these things monthly, you're going to be covered. So the whole idea behind it is that because we're used to doing this, and look, we're operators. It just so happened, Greg was the director of sport in Reading University. I was the national management trainer for LA Fitness. I was fitness first, and I look after about 125 councils and trusts about their operations now with my consultancy business. So we sort of get what you need. So the key bit is we know a lot needs to go on. Now, this is the weirdest thing ever, right? So I'm going to fold this up and then I'm going to open this whole thing up. Now, this is going to look a little tiny bit scary, but the bit that scares me, right? So I'm going to bring it down a little. You're not going to be able to see this. You're just going to see the scale of what your job is. So at the minute, you're trying to do this on paper. And this is the reason why we only find out what's wrong when something goes wrong, right? Because look, we understand that this is such a vast task that you're trying to get done in your business, right? We totally and utterly, like I say, it just so happens that Greg's a really good coder, right? So that's a really good bonus for us. But I've never worked with an organization before that when I say to the coder, I need this button, the coder knows why I need that button. Right, so some of the stuff that we're producing is, you know, we've just done. Obviously, if any of you come on board, you're going to get version 5 with all the embedding and all the different bits and pieces in there, the uploads, all that type of stuff will be part of what you've got. Now, for our existing customers, we took them from version 1 up to version 4 totally free of charge, and 5 was our first paid. The way that we work as a business is normally only new people pay for the changes, but because this was quite a big change, we've done a bit of an upgrade fee for them. We got a score of 92% based on the fact that we were still asking for an upgrade fee from our customers. They're absolutely loving what we do. We're happy to put you in touch with them if you want to speak to them. We won't even cherry pick. You find someone who's got one, go and have a look on the website, tell me, and I'll speak to them, and they'll allow you to speak to them. So the key behind this is that within 3.5 years, we're on version 5. We're not sitting still in any way, shape or form. We already have version 6 planned, right, which is going to be a free upgrade for everyone. And so as and when that comes, we won't, I won't go down that route yet, 'cause it's probably about a year before that gets rolled out. But the key behind it is we're not sitting still, right? We're now getting some really big operators coming to us, you know, Parkwoods, GLLs, you know, Loughboroughs, all these different universities are now knocking on our door and going, what's this thing we've got? When we show them it, they inevitably sign up. We've had another 4 universities sign up this month, and another council. So the key behind it is that hopefully you can see that this was built for exactly what you do, right? There's sort of, Greg couldn't find something on the market. He could find loads of bits and pieces, but he couldn't find anything. Since then, we've massively developed it, but we know this is a game changer. You know, the amount of organizations that are knocking on our door now. You probably noticed, apart from social media, we don't market, we don't go to all these big events, we don't, you know, don't have stands anywhere. We're just letting our customers do the talking, and that's sort of a really nice place for us to be in. But do you have any more questions? Thanks for that one, Lee.
I just ask a question. It's not really massively system orientated, but my question was, and the reason I flagged it was because you mentioned about like when the system flags to a specific person that it's their task, let's say in a year time, to update a document or to review it. If that person was to leave the organisation during that time, how does that work in regards to the system?
Brilliant. So let's say, for instance, you've got a fitness manager, right? And they own the fitness ones, as an example. So what basically happens is, now we have the ability to pause. So the fitness manager's leaving, we pause him. When his new person comes in, we allocate them to, when we take the fitness manager off, it says, who would you like to give his tasks to? right? So when that fitness manager comes in, nothing gets dropped. Every single thing that was outstanding, every problem is all on his radar for the new person. So we've been through this, right? So yeah, that was made up when you asked that one. I love it when we can do. But it is really key, right? And what we also have the ability to do is, let's say you've got a disgruntled member of staff. If they're in the system, you have the ability to go stop, poof, and they're out, right? So the key behind it, we've got quite a lot of control in the background. They can only see the things you want them to see. Now, let's say, for instance, I'm a duty manager. Now, you can allocate the tasks out to either a team or an individual, right? So I know every Tuesday I'm going to have a duty manager in, but I don't know which one. So you'd probably allocate it out to teams. Some organisations, their manager in the morning may go in. This will take about 2 minutes and go, right, I want Rhea to do this one. I want Lauren to do this one. I want Lee to do this one, and allocate it. And then we either know which teams missed it, but now we know which individuals not doing the jobs. Right now, you'll know that because you know who's on shift, right? So, but the key behind it is what you'll find with this system is it's going to open a few cans of worms, right? There'll be we haven't found an organisation yet that is doing everything that they say they're doing on their risk assessments. Not one out of the 185 organisations which have come on. So there will be gaps in learning that you'll go, oh my God, that was lucky, right? So that's a really good thing. But what you'll also find is this. Let's just say, for instance, Rhea, you are the best person in the world to introduce new customers, right? Or to do an induction or to say hi when they walk into the site, right? So I do a video of Rhea, I get that in there. It's absolutely amazing. I've got it, right? Now, if Rhea left, I still keep that amazing standard. And I know that no matter what site someone's in, they've had the best standard in our organisation to be trained for that particular task. So I call this Chinese whisper training. There's nothing worse than it depends on who was on shift as to how good that person is this day. Right now, we've all had that's happened in every, who's the best person at cleaning the toilet? Well, whoever that is, that's the one we get to create the video. Right. And what you'll find is, so there's a lad called Johnny Doherty up in Leeds. Now they just took on 3 new receptionists. Well, this is the first time Johnny hasn't had to come away from his job to train them. Right now, they popped into him with the odd question. Brilliant. But normally he has to come off his job for a couple of weeks to train these people up. He goes back to 7,282 emails, and somehow he's got to pick up on the old job that never stopped. Right. So what you'll find is your managers will massively end up getting freed up with this, because if someone asks you a question, it's on ops, pal. You've got your induction on you at all times. Right. If you forget to do a task or you can't remember it, it's in the instructions at the top. You can't forget. It's there. You can't even pretend you didn't know it. It's little things like, let's say, for instance, you've got a procedure and it's the holiday procedure, right? Don't you get staff who pretend that they didn't know they had to give you 3 weeks notice or a month's notice and they've already booked a holiday or something? Well, 1, you'll definitely know they've read it because you'll have the log. And 2, if they have to go to the holiday to procedure to click the holiday form, you can't pretend they didn't know. Right. So there's loads and loads of different things you'll see that you'll fix once you start to bring this in. And what it really does is it also helps to bring departments together, which in some organizations, different sites do things differently. Well, if you're a brand, they shouldn't. Right now, I worked in McDonald's. It's the worst job I ever had, but it's still the best company I ever worked for. Right now, I know that if I go into virtually any McDonald's in the country, there'll be 2 pickles on a Big Mac, right? And there'll be 1 on a cheeseburger. I know that, right? Because that is the standard that everyone gets trained to. Whereas if sometimes when I do my consultancy, I'll go in, it sometimes depends on who's on shift, let alone different sites or different venues, right? But what this does, it allows it to become, so if it's leisure focused, this is the leisure focused way. This is the way that everyone gets trained. So that consistency and freeing up your time in order to make it happen is, honest to God, it's a godsend. Any more questions? But keep them coming on. I love these. It's my favourite.
I've got a couple more, sorry.
Yeah, no, honestly, just keep them coming.
They flagged while you were speaking about that. So one of them was, how do we train staff in how to use this kind of a system? So is there like a set training program for like managers, a set training program for end users, let's say like the ops staff? Is there training programs created to be able to show you how to use it?
Yeah, totally and utterly. So the key behind this is when anyone first comes in, there's a quick user guide for everyone. So when an individual when they first come into the system, there's like a 12-minute video to explain how to look at your tasks, how to use your bell, all that type of stuff. Now, the key behind it really is we've made this as simple as possible. So when a user logs in, now if I've got an update or I've got tasks, it's here. If I've got to read something, it's here, right? So the key behind it is that the system teaches them how to do that. We do an 8-phase training. So we teach you how to set the organization up. We teach you we teach your admin team and how to build stuff. Then we'll teach you how to roll it out to the teams. So we've got this 8-phase process that we use when people first come on board. Okay, so again, this bit is really key for us, is that it's about us breaking this down into sort of bite-sized chunks for you rather than just throwing it all at you. Now, depending on how quick you take things up will depend on how quick we get through this, right? But the reality behind it is we have this flow of, so the first thing we do is we have a meeting with you about what you're going to need to bring. Then we set up your organization. So what access levels do you want? What teams do you want to have? What groups do you want to set up? So we talk you through the best practice of it and how you can do it. So we do all that with you. Then we go on to teaching you risk flows. So it's understanding that the risk, how you build it, how you get it approved. Then you do the build and approve for the risk set, the procedures that come with it, blah, blah, blah. So once we've done that, we build your top 5. We then teach you how to roll it out, blah, blah, blah. Then we train the end users. So look, I've been in that many organizations where they bring in that much software and it's like, it's a head blower. We've got organizations. So there's a gentleman who runs a factory and we couldn't train them for 6 days. Right now, that's sort of our lead times, about a week, and we can have you up and running. Right. So he said to me, look, can I have access? And I said, yeah. I said, we'll do the training then, but you can have access. 2 days later, we got this glowing review on LinkedIn going, oh my God, I've got this new product and it's amazing. Honest to God, to add something in, you click add and then you paste it in or you upload it and then you put your title in and you put your, honest to God, if I gave you it now, you'd be able to set yourself up. And we will train you on it and we'll teach you how to convert and how to, one of the things that we will do once it's up and running is we sit down with your managers and go, right, what do people do wrong on this? So wait there, this gentleman here has just done 47 tasks in 6 minutes. I don't know whether he's done them properly. So we might teach you how to build in there's timers in there. So this job takes 5 minutes and it won't let them do it unless they spent 5 minutes on it. Right. So we don't put them on by default. We only do that when people are flagging it. Right. But the key behind it is that we break down, we're operators, we're not IT people, right? So the key behind this is Dawn will walk you through exactly how you get this up and running in your business. And then as you get further down the line, I'll sort of come in and start, helping you. We do business reviews with you twice a year and I will question, I'll be like, so wait there, let's have a look at what's happening. So this person's not using it. This person's, will be able to give you information on the system. But yeah, we're just operators who want to help it, make it easier for you. But what you'll find is let's say, for instance, at the minute you walk around with a pad and you go, right, problem. You get back, put it on Excel, then email it out to everyone. Going forward, you'll be on your tablet, you'll say problem, they'll get an email straight away. The maintenance man's got it, he can't pretend he didn't get it. So you just do this, people start cleaning up behind you. Before you've even finished the audit, people are starting to fix things. And my biggest remit with Greg was, look, this can't be something that makes it harder for people. We've had enough of that, right? This has to make people's job easier. Now, the amount of time you will save by not just having to update that Excel spreadsheet somewhere, right? Or when the maintenance man comes in and you're trying to find everything he needs to do, it'll all be in his belt, right? And anything that's been allocated to someone else that he wants to have a look at, we've got it. It's all in that one place. So this product was specifically designed for exactly what you do. Right. And trust me, Greg, the costings is a really good example. Greg had built version 5. Right. I went to a particular university, Bangor University, and they said, look, could you get costings in there? And I was like, oh my God, that's so powerful. So I went back to Greg and said, look, mate, you've got to get costings. And he's like, I've just finished it. I was like, no, yeah, but I think this is really important. So I don't stop, Greg, do I?
No, he doesn't.
You decide. Yeah, but you decide what this product is. So if you say to me, right, we need this or we need this, and like someone said we need photographs for problems. Well, the biggest problem you have with that is it uses up loads of storage.
Yeah.
Right, because these new phones are amazing, right? They take up so much space, even when you compress them. So I said to Greg, look, it's your job. can you please do me a favor and go and find a way where it's not going to cost our customers? And Greg went off. He's now got this amazing new way of doing it. So we don't charge you that much for that space, right? You get your space when you build it and that type of stuff. But we give every one of our customers a whole host of space free of charge to put all the stuff in this so we can do it. So hopefully what you'll see is that Greg built this because he wanted to make his life easier, right? My job has always been to teach people how to do things properly, right? And to make sure that your open checks are good. You know, I always say to people this, can you show me what your training's like for your shift handover? And they always go, but it's things like that where as we get further down the line, we can really hone this product and we can get it so it's absolutely excellent in what you need. So I'll tell you now, I'm not stopping, and neither is Greg. There's a reason why we're on version 5 after 3.5 years. Now, I don't know about you, but most software that you've